Hey, what up guys? In this one, headed to Monte Golf Course. I think this is kind of like my Nemesis course. I posted 3 videos about this and the best I've shot was 88. So I just want to do better than that. Yeah, and I think it just really is a tough course. Even on the scorecard, it's very unassuming, but the greens are very, very small and the greens are pretty tough to putt on. And in addition to that, if you play from the back tees, the par threes are pretty difficult. So that being said, let's head out the course and see how I did.
All right, hole number 1 is a straightaway par 5. The only thing that's difficult about this particular hole is hitting the green. Like I said earlier, Monte has very small greens to hit. That being said, I wanted to be on the left side to get a better angle to the green, but misses ever so slightly to the right in my opinion, and so now I have sand traps to contend with. So hit it over the right hand sand trap and then onto the green. But this one rolls off to the back and now it's nestled up against that extra cut there, as you can see. So here is the putt. Yep, this one just ends up rolling past, and then I have a pretty manageable one for the comeback, and I just tap that one in for my par. So I'm even through one. It's a good start. All right, next up is a very short par 4. You probably don't have to hit anything more than 180 yards. It was cold. It was the very first swings of the day, so I took out the mini driver and hit into the middle of the fairway. Next up, just took the 9-iron. Yeah, it ends up being in pretty good position for the birdie. This is probably the easiest look at birdie I had all day, and unfortunately, I just could not convert it. So, yeah, just tap that in for my par, but loving a par start here. All right, for this next hole, you're going to see a very uncharacteristic drive. Just basically top this one. It doesn't go more than like 50 to 75 yards. So I have a long second shot. So I know I'm not going to get it there. So I take the hybrid out and just lay it up. And so I can try to put this next one close. So here's the attempt. You don't want to leave this above the hole because it slopes severely back to front. And so I leave this one pretty short, but I'm actually okay with it. I have a long uphill putt to contend with, and you know, it's a pretty good effort, I must say. And I wish I would just made this cleanup putt, and I didn't. So end up clocking a double bogey on this one, and I kind of erased the par effort I did on the last 2 holes. All right, this is one of the quote-unquote easier par 3s at Del Monte. Like I said earlier, the par 3s here are pretty difficult from the blues. End up hitting this one pretty short, so I have to chip on and try to get it close for my par. And this is where the chip ends up. And yeah, end up just converting this one for my par, and we're looking pretty good now, just trying to battle back from that double. All right, next up is a pretty short par 4, so end up just taking out the mini driver just to, stay away from any trouble. I lost the footage for the second shot, unfortunately, but this is where my second shot ends up, and so have a decent look again for a birdie. And so here is the attempt for birdie after a good approach into the green. And yeah, this one was kind of squandered as well. Didn't even give it a chance. I left it short. And so I end up with another par. So feeling pretty good that I'm going to break the 88 score today. All right, coming up is another tough par 3. It has sand traps protecting itself on the left and right hand side. I just hit it short of the left bunker. Unfortunately, this green is sloped severely back to front, and I wanted to keep it below the hole. End up about pin even, so I have a tough slider from right to left, and yeah, I just don't give it enough break, and then just tap that in for bogey. So like I said, the par 3s here are pretty tough. All right, this next hole is very tough, and it all depends on where the pin is placed that day because it's a multi-tier green. I hit this out to the right hand side and prepare myself to get to that back left pin. Unfortunately, that tree is kind of in the way. Luckily, I get through and get onto the middle tier of the green. So there's a top tier, middle tier, and bottom tier. I luckily stay up on that second tier, and I'm putting up to that third tier, which is a very difficult putt. And honestly, I'm just jazzed that I have a pretty short one for my par. You can't see it far in the distance, but I just tap that in. And a par here is pretty amazing in my opinion. All right, this next hole is a pretty straightforward dogleg right par 4, medium length, I would say, and I hit this one into the fairway, albeit not very far. My next shot into the green ends up being pretty decent. I just took my 8-iron here and tried to get something close. I think it hits in the back and it rolls a little further, so I have a pretty long one for my attempt here with my arm lock putter. And yeah, just once scoots by, I'm out maybe 5 feet or so. And so I have this for my cleanup. And yeah, it just rolls by. So I tap that in for my bogey, and I'm 4 over at this point. Alright, this hole is kind of tough because you can't miss it left because it's OB, and if you miss it right, you have to contend with trees on your second shot. Luckily, I striped this one down the middle, and I just took an easy to hit club, which is this 4-1 length hybrid, and I hit it into the middle of the fairway. So pretty straightforward next shot into the green, just to try to get it close so I can, have some semblance of an easy birdie putt. But unfortunately, I tugged this one to the left, and now I have quite a long one for the birdie putt. And this is the attempt. And yeah, as you can see, my friend TJ is blocking the camera. However, I roll that one past. And yeah, pretty much I just tapped this one in for par. But at this point, being 4 over through 9, I'm really happy about that. And so, I'm really good on track for breaking my personal best here. So next up is a super short par 4, but you'd be crazy to go for it. So I take out the mini driver just to be safe. So taking my gap wedge now, I thought I hit a pretty good approach into the green. However, it hits the backside of the green and rolls off, and so I have to chip on just to try to get up and down for par. So here's the attempt. Try to get a little too cute with it, and so I have a testy one to just clean up here. And luckily I do. I got a par on probably one of the easier holes on the course. All right, coming up next is another short par 4. Took out the driver here, kind of risky. But yeah, I end up going over the second trap on the left-hand side, and now I have this tree overhanging in front of me. And I couldn't really see because it was hanging down that low, so I squat down, and I hit a really good shot into the green with my gap wedge with that tree interference. That being said, here's the putt. I thought it was going to be pretty decent. Rolls past, a couple feet, but hey, I just tapped that one in for par, and we're moving on. Alright, so this is another tough par 3, very small green, and it's a sloped green once again. I pull this one to the left hand side, and I'm fortunately above the pin, so I'd be pretty lucky just to get this one close. As you can see, this one just rolls out for me, and so I have a pretty long one for my par here, but not much you can do from that position. And so here is the putt, and yeah, I just can't keep it above the hole, so end up just tapping that one in for bogey. Alright, this is probably one of my favorite holes on the course because of the viewpoint you get from the tee box. It looks narrow, but it's a very wide fairway. And yeah, you're going to see a sequence of some pretty bad shots here. Didn't know what was happening on this one, so I just needed a little club toss just to, express my frustration in a joking way. But then I topped it again, so this time I'm actually like pretty frustrated here. So yeah, end up just taking my 7-iron into the green. So thinking all I want to be is on the putting surface, but I go long. And then I barely chipped this one on, and now I'm left with a tough downhiller just for my bogey here. And so yeah, I roll this one past, and like, dang, I still have a nerve-wracking like 4 or 5 footer for my double, and luckily I end up making it. So scrambling just to get a double on my favorite hole. All right, next up is probably my least favorite hole. This par 3, if it's windy, can play upwards to 220, 230 yards. As you can see, Milton's saying nope, nope, nope. No one hit the green in regulation, and guess what? None of us, between the 3 of us, hit any greens in regulation on the par 3s for the greenies. That being said, my chip rolls onto the green and then rolls off, and now I'm on the front fringe. And yeah, I missed this putt for my par, and then yeah, I have a slidey one for my bogey. End up just lipping that one, so end up tapping that one for my double. But man, yeah, what a rough couple of holes. Alright, so trying to get back on track here. Hit driver on this hole, even though it's not completely necessary. This hole is once again protected by a pretty tough green that slopes the very left to right. This one I end up hitting left of the flag, but it kicks a little bit to the right, so I'm actually just pin high and have a decent look at birdie. So you can see I barely tapped this putt, and it keeps rolling like it wouldn't stop. So luckily I just stopped it below the hole, gave myself an easy tap in par, and I'm happy with that and getting back on track. Alright, coming up is probably the toughest hole on the back, only because it plays into wind and it plays really long. Didn't hit the best of drives here, but into the wind I'm pretty happy about that. I end up taking the hybrid here, and unfortunately it catches the side hill of the backside of the green, and so I'm in this shaded area that's pretty far from the green itself, and there's no way I'm keeping this one near the hole because the hole slopes severely away from the flag. And so I have this monster putt just to try to save my par. And there's like no way I'm going to make that. But the fact that I was only like 6 feet or so, I'm pretty happy about it. But I'm not happy with the second effort. So it ends up just lipping out there. And I just end up tapping this one in for double bogey. So yeah, I can't get off the doubles train. And I'm leaking a lot of strokes here. But that being said, I'm only, a couple pars away from breaking my record here at Del Monte. Alright, next up is a pretty straightforward par 5. If you favor the left-hand side, you'll have a better shot for your next shot. I unfortunately was trying to thread the needle here and just barely get around this tree. So I hit the tree, and now I have to punch out, and I do a terrible job. I almost completely missed the ball, but I'm in the middle of the fairway, and I have a good look just to try to get up and down. So I take my gap wedge. This hole, you definitely don't want to be past the pin. I'm unfortunately pin even, so even though it's short, it's a pretty slidey putt for my par. And yeah, I was giving it too much respect and, didn't even hit it that hard, and I just tap in for my bogey here. All right, coming down to the last hole, I have a lot of wiggle room to beat my personal best of 88. This one I hit down the middle of the fairway, and I'm looking pretty good. Unfortunately, my next shot, I pull hook it to the left. And so now I have a testy up and down just to try to get a par because I want to finish strong. So here's the chip. It ends up being pretty dang good. And so I have a pretty short one for my par just to get up and down. And yeah, so that one just ends up dropping and end up 12 over and shooting 82.
All right, as you can see, improved my best score to 84. Maybe I'll try it again and try to improve on that. But yeah, the course is tough. I mean, I didn't have any birdies, and I don't know what it is about it. Maybe some people think it's not that hard of a course, but for me personally, it's pretty tough. Maybe exposes, one of my weaknesses, which is my shots into the green. And then on top of that, even if you're on the green, the putt is not very straightforward. So you kind of need to know the quirks and the breaks of all the greens at Del Monte. So that being said, hope you guys enjoyed that one. Keep chasing, and I'll see you in the next one.